When investors are not concerned about trade, they are worried about the Federal Reserve and the path forward for interest rates. And that concern will likely build ahead of its policy meeting later this month. Steve Liesman takes a look at what might lie ahead for the Fed.
The breeze investors feel is not a local wind, it's a global downdraft in interest rates that's expected to blow harder this month. On September 12th, the European Central Bank meets, and on September 18th, the Federal Reserve meets. Both are expected to reduce interest rates or otherwise provide monetary policy easing. That could boost the Japanese yen, pressuring the Bank of Japan to cut. And Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, he's only holding his fire until he knows how the UK is going to exit the European Union in the Brexit process. In an exclusive interview in Jackson Hole, Mark Carney talked about the impact of Brexit and trade.
Business investment is actually running almost 25 percentage points below its previous trend. Businesses in the UK have quite reasonably said, wait a minute, I'm going to wait until, if they have any exposure to Europe, either upstream or downstream, they've decided to wait and see, well, what are the new rules of the game going to be? That's part of what's happening worldwide is people are saying, well, okay, well, I've got exposure to a Chinese supply chain or US. Let me see where this settles out.
There's a wide spread right now in global interest rates. China's central bank's benchmark rate is at 4.35%, the U.S. at 2.13%, the UK at just 0.75%, while Europe's at 0%, and Japan is minus 0.1%. It's not just central banks in the developed world that are cutting. Of 37 emerging market central banks looked at by Reuters, there's been a net 14 cuts in August. That's the most in a decade. And that's up from 8 net cuts in July. And it's the 7th straight months of cuts from these banks. The Fed is expected to cut rates in September and again in October. That could prompt another global downdraft in interest rates. The question is the tailwind provided to economies from lower rates enough to offset the headwinds from slower growth and the trade war? For Nightly Business Report, I'm Steve Liesman.